I woke up that morning like any other, with the soft glow of the sun breaking over the horizon of eastern Burkina Faso. My schedule was packed, but nothing seemed unusual. I had a mission that day, visiting a rural youth center where hundreds of young people awaited my words. Their faces, filled with hope, were my fuel. My convoy was prepared. My black SUV sat idling as I stood nearby, sipping tea. Drummers were already warming up in the village square. Speeches had been written, smiles were expected. The air smelled of dust and promise. But then a voice broke the calm. "Sir," Idrissa, my advisor, called out, "if we take the main road, we'll be 2 hours late, but there's a shortcut through the bush. Very quiet. No towns." "We'll be there in 40 minutes." I raised an eyebrow. "Is the road secure?" "Yes, sir." Idrissa nodded, almost too quickly. "Our men cleared it yesterday. I personally oversaw it." Karim, my head of security, stepped forward, his tone firm. "I don't like that road. Too quiet. Feels wrong." He wasn't wrong to worry, but time wasn't our ally that day. The youth were waiting, and the convoy didn't have fuel for unnecessary detours. I paused. Something in me whispered caution, but the pressure of duty. It pushes men toward decisions they wouldn't normally take. "Fine," I said. "We'll take the shortcut." The convoy rolled out, 5 vehicles, 2 armed trucks in front, my SUV in the middle, and 2 more behind. The road narrowed quickly. Tall, dry grass hemmed us in on both sides. No houses, no goats, no smoke from fires. Nothing but an unsettling silence. Minutes passed. The bouncing rhythm of the dirt road lulled my thoughts, but inside something gnawed at me, something invisible, but present. Then it happened. Out of nowhere, a cow stepped onto the road, not running, not wandering. It planted itself right in the middle, legs stiff, head high, a big brown cow. Its horns were chipped, its eyes unnervingly calm. The driver honked. The cow didn't move. A soldier from the front truck shouted, "Get! Move!" Waved his hands. Nothing. Karim muttered, "That's not normal." The soldier fired a shot into the air. The sound echoed through the emptiness. Still, the cow didn't budge. "It's just a cow," Idrissa scoffed. "Drive around it, we're wasting time." But something about the way that animal stood, not afraid, not even irritated, sent a chill through me. My gut tightened. Instinct overrode logic. "Stop the car," I ordered. "Sir?" the driver asked, confused. I said stop. "Send someone to check the ground under that cow." "Sir, with respect, it's just a—" Idrissa started, but I cut him off. "Check the ground." 2 guards approached cautiously, hands tight around their rifles. One knelt, brushed at the dirt near the cow's front legs. His hand froze. He leaned closer, then jumped back like he'd touched fire. "Sir, there's something here." My heartbeat thundered. I stepped out of the SUV. Dirt shifted beneath hurried boots as the convoy gathered around. A thin metal wire, almost invisible, poked through the dust. The soldier followed it carefully with trembling fingers. He gasped, "Sir, a mine. No, 3 mines." Shouts, radios flaring, panic restrained only by training. Guns drawn now, but not toward enemies, toward the ground. And that cow. It still stood, silent, steady, right above the trigger meant for me. My eyes scanned from the wire, to the cow, to Idrissa. For the first time, I saw it, real fear, not of the mines, but of being discovered. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew shattered. The air was suffocating. Silence weighed heavier than any gunfire ever could. My gaze stayed locked on the wire buried beneath the cow's hooves. 3 landmines, designed, placed, and positioned perfectly. For me. I turned sharply to Idrissa. His face was pale, but he tried to compose himself, wiping his brow as if it were just the heat. But his hands trembled. I noticed. Karim noticed. Everyone noticed. "You said this road was cleared," I said, my voice low but sharper than a blade. It was, sir." His voice cracked. "We swept it yesterday. No signs of danger." Karim knelt beside the wire, his fingers tracing the disturbed dirt further. "This was planted recently," he muttered. He pointed to a soft, fresh boot print next to one of the mines. The ground still loose. "This wasn't here yesterday morning." A pulse of ice shot through me. "Someone knew we'd be on this road," I said slowly. Idrissa forced a nervous chuckle. "Sir, perhaps the enemy just guessed." I stepped closer. "You insisted on this shortcut. Why?" He swallowed hard, eyes darting left and right. I thought we were late." Karim's hand drifted toward his weapon. His stance shifted, protective, aggressive. "But this road," Karim growled, "isn't even on the official travel list. And you said you personally oversaw the clearance, didn't you?" "Yes, I did," Idrissa mumbled, shrinking under the weight of his own words. The rumble of an engine echoed from behind. Commander Siku arrived on a motorbike, dust trailing him like a storm. His face was carved from stone as he dismounted and approached, listening as Karim gave him the rapid rundown. "Sir," Siku said, turning to me, "permission to speak in private." We stepped aside, only a few paces away, but far enough from listening ears. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "I don't trust him," he said, nodding toward Idrissa. "And you won't like what I've just confirmed." My chest tightened. "Speak." "One of Idrissa's private security officers," Siku continued, "was caught trying to send a location ping. We traced it. It was connecting to a satellite uplink, a foreign military firm's signature." The breath left my lungs. My vision tunneled toward Idrissa, his nervous glances, his twitching hands. His sudden insistence on this route. I clenched my jaw. "He led us here." "And someone made sure death was waiting," Siku said grimly. Just then, a soldier near the cow shouted, "It's moving!" We all turned. Slowly, almost gracefully, the cow shifted. No panic, no fear. It simply stepped aside as if its job was done. It walked into the bush, vanishing behind the tall grass. No one followed. No one even breathed for a moment, because every man there knew, whatever that was, however it happened, that cow had just saved my life. Karim whispered, "This isn't luck. This is a message." I nodded, my mind sharpening into steel. "Search every inch of this road, every tree, every root, and—" I turned to my soldiers. "Arrest Idrissa. Do not let him speak to anyone." The men moved fast. Idrissa's panic burst free. "Mr. President, wait, I swear I don't know." I raised a hand, silencing him. My voice was ice. "You told me this road was safe. You promised it." I stepped close enough that only he could hear me. "But that cow saved me before you could kill me." His face drained of color. Soldiers grabbed him, pulled his arms behind his back, and dragged him toward the back vehicle. His protests faded under the weight of iron grips. I turned to the men. "We're not going to the youth center today." I scanned the horizon, voice turning grim. "We're going to the truth." The convoy didn't move forward that day. It reversed, slowly, cautiously, under full military escort. Drones buzzed overhead, mines were flagged. The ambush site became evidence, and the quiet hum inside my chest grew louder, because I knew this was only the beginning. Back at the presidential palace, I sat in my office, staring at the photographs scattered across my desk. Satellite images, maps, evidence logs. The file in front of me was heavier than paper should ever feel. It wasn't the weight of ink, it was the weight of betrayal. Idrissa was now in custody, but even with him behind bars, something gnawed at me. This wasn't just a simple betrayal. No, this was bigger, deeper, coordinated. Siku entered without knocking, holding a secure tablet. His face was as grim as mine. "Sir," he began, "we finished the digital sweep." I motioned for him to continue. "We found a hidden tracking program on the convoy's lead vehicle. Real-time GPS transmission. Whoever planted it knew exactly where you were every second until the cow blocked the road." I felt my fists tighten. "Who planted it?" He tapped the screen. A name appeared. Lieutenant Dwamba. a logistics officer, quiet, reliable. Or so we thought. Twamba? I asked in disbelief. He's been with us for years. He confessed immediately, Siku confirmed, offered money, a foreign visa, promised a new life. He sold you out, sir. He believed you'd be replaced, that it was already arranged. I stood, walking slowly toward the window. Who are they, Siku? My voice was low, lethal. He inhaled. One name keeps surfacing. Langley Group Support, a private military contractor. The uplinks connect back to them. My eyes narrowed. An American firm. He nodded. This wasn't just an inside job. This was an international operation. The weight of those words was suffocating. I turned, looking directly at him. They think Africa is a chessboard. They think they can move pieces as they wish. No more, I said. My voice turned steel. No. More. That night I made the decision. At exactly 8 p.m., a last-minute broadcast was announced. No press conference, no filtered statements, just me, face-to-face with my people. As cameras went live, millions tuned in, not just in Burkina Faso, but in Mali, Guinea, Niger. Even in Europe, in America, curious eyes watched. I stared directly into the camera. No notes, no script. I was nearly killed this week, I began. Not by rebels, not by war, but by men in suits. Men who smile at us and while wiring our roads with explosives. The silence from the audience, even through the screen, was deafening. They sent traitors into my palace, I continued. They bought brothers with foreign money. They plotted my death using my own roads, my own people. My own advisor. I leaned forward. But they failed. I allowed the weight of those words to settle. They failed because a simple animal stood in the way. Yes, a cow. A cow stopped me. A flicker of disbelief ran across faces nationwide, and yet they knew it was true. When they see that even nature won't let me fall, I said, slamming my hand on the desk, they will understand something deeper. I inhaled sharply. Burkina Faso is not a chessboard for outsiders. From this day forward, any foreign military contractor, any foreign intelligence agency or any hidden operative must leave. The gasps were audible. And one more thing, I added, voice narrowing to a blade. I know your names. I have your messages. You tried to bury me. I stood slowly, gaze unblinking. But you only planted a seed. As the flag of Burkina Faso rose behind me, the screen faded to black. Across Africa, the lion roared. But somewhere across the ocean, inside a high-security boardroom, 3 foreign men sat frozen, replaying my speech on loop. The tension in the room was suffocating. He wasn't supposed to survive. One, an American in a sharp suit, growled. That road was cleared. We tracked him live. How does a cow ruin a $3 million operation? Another, British, hissed. There was a long pause. Then the third leaned forward, voice ice cold. We underestimated him. They shuffled documents, pulled out new plans. This time, no landmines, no noise, no mistakes. Back home, I was already preparing, because I knew they would try again. 3 days later, a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of the presidential palace. 4 foreign diplomats stepped out, their smiles polished, their suits crisp. In their hands, a box wrapped in gold paper, a gift from their embassy. Inside, they claimed, were books, electronics, and a selection of fine teas from the Alps. But I already knew. The tip came from Siku's surveillance team, a chatter intercepted from an encrypted channel. This wasn't a diplomatic visit. It was an execution dressed in diplomacy. Hidden inside the tea box was a slim, matte black device, a bracelet with an embedded micro-injector, the kind designed for quiet kills. A handshake, a pat on the back. That's all it would take. 1 drop of its poison and a heart would stop in 60 seconds, but they didn't know. The trap was no longer theirs. It was mine. As the 4 diplomats sat in the palace conference room, sipping cold drinks and waiting, the doors burst open. Soldiers stormed in, rifles raised, safeties off. Hands where we can see them! Don't move! One diplomat reached for his jacket pocket, perhaps a weapon, or maybe a desperate call for help. He was slammed to the ground before his hand even touched fabric. The gift box was seized. The bracelet removed. Inside the bracelet, the injector needle gleamed under the lights. Perfectly hidden, perfectly lethal. The truth was undeniable. Under interrogation, one of them cracked. His voice trembled, words tumbling over each other like a collapsing dam. We tried everything. Mines, bribes, poison, diplomats. But he... The man's eyes widened as if trying to understand something beyond him. He always survives. How? Siku leaned forward, his voice a cold whisper. Because he fights for people, not power, and sometimes even animals fight with him. That evening I stood before my nation once more. They call us weak, I declared, but the weak do not survive betrayal after betrayal. The weak do not bury foreign plots. The weak do not write history with cows and children. I paused, letting the truth sink deep into every ear tuned to my words. Today, we didn't just survive another attack. Today, we buried the lie that Africa cannot protect itself. Outside, the streets of Ouagadougou exploded with life. Social media flooded with images of the brown cow, its horns painted gold in murals from the city to the villages. Songs were written, poems declared. Children painted the cow's image on their school walls. Across Africa, the story spread like fire in dry grass. The West brought satellites, we had dust and a cow. But in the shadows, far from Africa, rage simmered. Inside a fortified boardroom of the same private military firm that had planned the earlier attacks, the mood was volcanic. "How does a cow stop us?" the American snarled, slamming his palm onto the table. "We underestimated him," the British agent replied, his voice tight with frustration. "We underestimated the entire country." Documents scattered, blueprints were opened. "This time," the lead operative growled, "no explosives, no mistakes, something quieter, something final." Back in Burkina Faso, I wasn't celebrating. I knew better. The cow had bought us time, but it hadn't stopped the storm, not completely. In the palace war room, I stood with Siku, Karim, and my intelligence chiefs. We mapped enemy patterns, tracked their movements, intercepted their calls. "They'll try again," I told them. "But this time," I pressed my fist against the table, "we strike first." Meanwhile, deep in the city of Bobo-Dioulasso, a young cattle herder walked into a mosque with a strange story. His favorite cow had disappeared for 2 days. When it returned, its leg had a singed patch of hairs and red paint smeared across one horn. "I think," he whispered to the imam, "it was the one from the President's Road." The imam's eyes widened. Word spread like wildfire. When the report reached me, I gave a simple order. "Bring the cow, quietly, under full guard. Not for worship, not for parade, but to study it." And what the lab discovered the next day shook even me. The lab results came back faster than expected. The technicians, hardened men used to testing explosives and biological agents, looked pale when they handed me the report. Tiny traces of dried blood, human, not bovine, were found smeared along the cow's back and horns, not from the cow itself. Someone had bled near it, or on it. Either someone had tried to move it, harm it, or failed in doing so. Siku stormed into my office moments later. "Sir, fresh intel, they're coming, not with bombs, not with drones, not with soldiers, with smiles, with handshakes, with gifts." I nodded. "Then we'll welcome them with open arms." I closed the folder on my desk. The trap was set. 3 days later, the next foreign delegation arrived. Another peace visit. Smiling officials. Friendly words. Another box of gifts. Rare books, imported teas, and handcrafted bracelets. But this time they didn't even get to sit. As the delegation crossed the threshold into the palace, soldiers swarmed. Guns raised, no words, no warnings. "Hands up!" One diplomat reached for his wrist, the bracelet, but a soldier tackled him to the ground. The bracelet snapped off, rolling across the marble floor. The guards retrieved it and exposed what was hidden inside. a micro-injector identical to the one from the last plot. A single drop of its toxin would have been enough to kill me instantly. The prisoners didn't resist after that. They knew the game was over. In the interrogation room, one of them finally broke. "We tried landmines. We tried bribing your men. We tried poison. Now this," his voice cracked, "but he always survives." "How?" Siku didn't even blink. "Because when you fight for your people, even the earth fights with you." That night, standing before my people once again, I delivered the words that would echo across generations. They sent bombs, we found them. They sent traitors, we exposed them. They sent poison. We crushed them. I stepped forward, voice rising. They think Africa is weak, but weakness doesn't survive this. Weakness doesn't expose betrayal. Weakness doesn't make history, with cows and children. The streets roared. From the poorest village to the richest district, people shouted one word over and over: freedom. In Ouagadougou's main square, young artists had built a statue. A massive sculpture of the cow welded from scraps of retired army vehicles. On its base, a plaque read, "It stood when the world wanted him to fall." The next morning, I received a message from Siku. The interrogated diplomat confessed, "There are more, hidden in embassies, charities, even private schools, waiting." I stared at the screen, locked the phone. I walked quietly into the palace garden. The giant metal cow stood against the morning sun, its bronze horns glowing. "This isn't just political anymore," I said aloud. "It's spiritual. A war not of bullets, but of pressure, of bribes, of lies." Later that day, I met with 5 people: Siku, Karim, my cyber chief, and 2 spiritual leaders. This wasn't just strategy anymore. This was a mission. "We launch Operation Mirror," I declared. "From today, every embassy is monitored, every foreign friend watched, every betrayal exposed publicly. No more secrets, no more silence." And so it began. Weeks passed. No new attempts. The world noticed. Burkina Faso became a nation impossible to manipulate. No bribes worked, no threats landed. Foreign embassies requested meetings. I ignored them. I had become something else. Not just a leader, a symbol, a legend. Months later, during an international summit in Mali, a journalist asked me a question on live TV. "Mr. President, do you really believe a cow saved your life?" The room chuckled. I smiled. "Yes," I said, "a cow saved me. But that's not the point." I leaned into the microphone. The real miracle is what the cow revealed. It showed how deep betrayal can hide, how even the earth itself will speak, if you're humble enough to listen. The audience went silent. Then, an explosion of applause. Somewhere back in Burkina Faso, a boy named Duda watched from his classroom. He grinned. First a mango, now a cow. I wonder what saves him next. His teacher laughed. Maybe. A chicken. But deep in the bush, an old brown cow grazed quietly, unaware it had become a legend. It had simply stood still, at the right place, at the right time. While the world tried to bring a good man down, Africa stood still and saved him.